Good to go. All right, good evening and welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 10 of the 13-week fiscal program for American prisoners of war. I have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator as well as Chief Quietwater. And here, as always, we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. And today we will have Chief Quietwater start with the 12 steps for today.
All right. So number one, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Number two, who established that estate over that area prior to the European. Number four, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? They either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3, in addition to field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Number 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores. Number 8, all businesses need operating cash. Spend money with American businesses. Number 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our club services, products, and entertainment. Number 10, the U.S. government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The U.S. dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the U.S. government. This is why the financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Number 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about their history on this land. Have them learn about an American inventor. Have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. D, they should know the nation prior to the European invasion militarily and culturally. And then number 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the U.S. government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter, will bring us together for our common cause.
Thank you to Chief Quietwater for those readings. Next, we'll have myself with this week's Inventor, American Inventor. And this week's Inventor is hits home, definitely hits close to home. This is actually a great ancestor of mine personally through my lineage here. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and show the exact invention. In this week's Inventor, we have Thomas Henry Westheimer. Thomas Henry Westheimer of Americus, Georgia. He invented the grate. So we have a patent number here. Patent number is 679655. And the patent was actually granted July 30th, 1901. And what this grate does is pretty much just helps protect, the user, whether it's like a cooking appliance or whether it's, a furnace. Those grates that are on like gas furnaces, to where it's not just sitting directly on the instrument that's, pretty much conducting the fire, helps protect that. And that way you can sit stuff on it and also protects the user from getting burned. He actually invented this patent, which actually helped improve the ordinary construction of the basket grate, because generally the entire grate is made of, I guess, like some iron material, but the bottom would burn out pretty quickly, thus rendering the whole pretty much grate useless. So instead of, having to repair the whole grate, he invented something where that bottom piece would be easily replaceable. So that was this invention here. And this is Thomas H. Westheimer of Americus, Georgia. So one of my actual great ancestors. Again, just showing how we come from ingenuity, intuitive people who are, inventors, something's an issue, we're going to make a solution. We're going to fix the problem, things of that nature. So definitely want to get back into alignment with that as, not only as, my family, but as a people in general. That was definitely something to shout out today.
Hold on. Don't leave that. I got some questions. We can't just skip over your bloodline like that. I mean, that hit close to home. That's your actual.
Yes, sir.
Right. That's awesome.
Y'all reap any financial benefits, your family, from what he did.
Look, I was just looking at that. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm about to reshare my screen. So no financial benefits. So again, as all of the inventors that we've read off thus far, from what I know, no financial benefits come from it in regards to, this invention that he created. But again, this is something that still gets used today as far as, grates over, whether it be a fireplace or again, like a gas stovetop.
I have another question for you.
Go ahead.
What would you say to your school teachers that are going to tell you you're from Africa, which means you would be skipping over your great, what is he, your great uncle? Who would
this be my, I want to say like my 4th great grandfather on my father's side.
Okay, so this is a great learning lesson for us and anybody that's watching this channel. If you're learning anything, rock with us. But that school teacher is going to tell you you're from Africa. Now that it hit close to home and is more real for you, what would be your response to these school teachers that are trying to just overlook American history and take us straight to another landmass? What would you say to that now that you got inventors in your own bloodline?
Yeah, my response would be pretty much what Dr. Carter G. Woodson said. You have two educators, one from schooling and then one that you do yourself. This is something I had to find out myself. Like you said, the school teachers don't have you strayed off into Africa or some other place saying, hey, you come off this boat, all you did was plant cotton and that's it. No, that's all you come from. So again, taking that school system and trying to say, okay, they're telling me where I'm coming from versus my family, which is exactly where I got this information from. So why wouldn't I listen to my family versus some stranger who is reading something out of an interpretation book that's used to, again, brainwash us into believing we're something we're not. So that's what I would say in regards to that. And I wasn't able to find a picture of him, but I do have his son here. Are you guys able to see my screen? This is James Russell Westheimer. So I believe this would be like my great grandfather or something along those lines, possibly. But this is basically his son, again, showing Americus, Georgia. And he went to Cornell, and this is in 1917. And if you see here, it shows he was age 21. So
very distinguished.
Very distinguished gentleman, dressed to the nines. Not how they like to interpret us. They like to show us with ragtag clothing.
Right.
That's not the case.
That's awesome. Wow.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Chief Biko. This goes completely 180 degrees away from what school teaches us. Your relative looks sophisticated. Why do they always get these lonely 1 or 2 Negroes in a field? This whole thing is like the state versus tribes. It's like those that won't let go of the slave narrative. Those are the ones that's repping for the state and they're repping for the United States government. They're going to pump that narrative. And it's almost like a matrix. You can get up and walk out the room. They'll still be talking that same thing while you go ahead and get educated on an individual level. Great information, man.
Thank you. Thank you. And next we will go ahead and have Chief Alligator with the quote for this week.
I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Let's see. This week I'm going to do number 6. And number 6 says, leadership is usually superimposed for the purpose of directing the course of the ostracized group along same lines. This was accomplished during the days of slavery by restricting the assembly of Negroes to certain times and places and compelling them to meet in the presence of a stipulated number of the wisest and discreetest men of the community. These supervisors of the conduct of Negroes would prevent them from learning the truth, which might make them unruly or ambitious to become free. And I chose this one, number one. Salute again to Grandmaster Jay. But Black Lives Matter is the most recent scenario in 2020 that rings this number 6 quote, where they got superimposed on us during 2020. And it sucked off a lot of energy and a lot of financial resources. And so here we are now in 2022, all the youth that was in college that was protesting, they caught federal charges. These people haven't paid to exonerate or expunge their records. They didn't fund any court cases of any of the people who lost loved ones. So Dr. Carter G. Woodson was spot on over 100 years ago about the superimposed leadership. And the second part of it, where he says, restricting the assembly of Negroes to certain times and places, that rhymes with every time we get killed. Now it's, you can assemble at this time, you can march for 4 hours and say no justice, no peace. And there's a time limit when you need to go in the house. So we kill you, but then we turn around and tell you how to protest peacefully. And I just think 6 rhymes with both of those situations that we're currently practicing 100 years later. Anything y'all get from that?
I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Again, it's, as you always say, it's rhyming. Not much has changed. And he was spot on with the way, well, how you said about Black Lives Matter. They just basically hijacked that whole movement and used it to their advantage. It definitely didn't help the people who were standing on the front lines, and whether they were rioting, protesting, looting, they weren't there to help.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just in regards to that Black Lives Matter situation, they came in profiting off of, Black American death. Like I said, what type of resources were given to these families, whether it was to fight, certain court charges, put people away, what was actually given to the family, if anything, because I doubt it was. We saw how they came out with one of the, I guess you could say, faces of Black Lives Matter, because we know that it's actually ran by someone else. I believe George Soros or something like that. One of them were actually got caught up, using the funds to get a mansion or a certain type of home. So again, just, highlighting them, but it's also many organizations like that. We only hear about the NAACP when it's time to get out and register to vote, or we only hear from the Urban League when they're trying to push an agenda. Hey, let's get this gun reform. That wasn't a part of the agenda. I thought we said we're trying to get the George Floyd Act passed, trying to get, anti-Black hate crime bill passed, reparations, but all these other things. That's when they want to kind of push forward a different agenda from, whether it's from the Democrats or the Republicans, because they're just two wings, a part of the same thing.
Right.
Like you highlighted there, you definitely have to look at these type of organizations with discernment and start doing for self instead of relying on these, I guess you could call them bourgeoisies to, speak for us.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
That was quote 6. All right. And lastly, we'll go ahead and have Chief Alligator finish off as well with the maroon historical points and legal definitions.
Okay. Legal definitions. Number 1, American, a native of America. 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. School, an institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Education, an enlightening experience. The maroon historical points. And I'll just say that these are universal principles, and we're out of alignment as a group of people because we don't adhere to this. Every other group adheres to this. Was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law? Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. We don't do that. Point 3, Maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. All leaders are preachers. Point 4, Maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks and thick grass, and Maroons knew their enemy's language, defenses, and plans.
Thank you there, Chief Alligator. And before we jump into the next reading, I will go ahead and jump into the Constitution, because we have to continue to nail this home. Article 1, Section 10 states, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. Again, the last article that we just read, the 1866 Indian Treaty, highlighted again how it was a civil rebellion, not a civil war, and also how the European cannot be a confederate. Again, a pretend confederacy. So again, this reoccurring theme continues to be highlighted, not just from us saying it, but from the actual documents that we're reading from. We have to ask the question, 1, why do we continue to call it a civil war? 2, why do this U.S. education continue to call it a civil war when their own historical documents say that it isn't? And 3, why are we so, so hard pressed and so keen on not saying exactly what it is, which is a rebellion? If what we're reading from the actual historical documents, legal documents, and from the people in that actual time calling it a rebellion, why aren't we now? Simple question, brainwashing technique. They have to become the American in order to continue to make sure that the American is docile and not fighting for what's rightfully theirs, as Chief Alligator alluded to earlier, get us on a different continent and a different plane. That way we are no longer focused on where we originally come from. Next here, we got grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So again, right here, nothing but gold and silver can pay off debts, plain and simple. As we continue to, reiterate, none of us get paid in gold and silver, but yet we are indebted to these certain taxes, these certain fees, mortgages. We're indebted to these things, but we're not given the resource to actually pay off these debts. So it comes to say, okay, then what are we actually doing? As Chief Quietwater read, 1971, the gold was taken out. The money is no longer backed by gold. So wouldn't that mean everybody is playing with fiat or playing with monopoly money at this point? Nobody can pay off anything. It's just a reoccurring transfer of debt, pretty much, because it's not getting paid off according to its constitution, because the only way to pay off that debt would be via gold or silver. So again, why are we, still in this situation? Why haven't we torn shit up at this point? Why are we voting for something that doesn't even have any money to even give us or has no resources whatsoever? So then again, just something to highlight, something to, just kind of remember as we continue to go through this. Article 2, Section 2 states that the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states. So again, just kind of highlighting the powers of the president. Again, Peyton, the white militiaman, the European militiaman rather, from, I believe, somewhere in New York as well, drove to Buffalo, 200 miles away, knew exactly the whole store layout. It's all in his manifesto, knew the layout, knew everything down to the nines, was very detailed. That, and only at the age of 18. So that type of thought process, that type of training, that type of that type of detail would have to be someone who's, been through this or who has been planning to do this for a while and has had help planning to do this for a while. This man was sent on a mission. He's a militiaman, but yet the news, you don't hear a lot of, quote unquote, Black media talking about how, like, who trained this individual. It's all about, okay, this is a one-off incident, but the man was straight down to the nines in regards to body armor, defense armor for pretty much battle. So again, another question.
And to now know this information, now it's easier for people who know to see and look and tell exactly what took place. But if you don't know this information, you just think that it's a young white boy who just had this master plan. But no, this was definitely orchestrated in the background by highly skilled people.
He didn't snap. He didn't do anything of that nature.
Right.
He listed exactly what he wanted to do, exactly what he did. It answered all questions that would be possibly asked. But again, none of those were asked as far as in, the mainstream media or Black media. He explained exactly what he was doing and what he was doing it for.
Right.
Wow.
And
it just highlights, again, who had the power to call upon that individual. Did you want to speak on something there, Chief Alligator?
I was just going to ask both of y'all a question. Who has to train you or prep you to ask and answer your own questions? Like you just said in that manifesto, the only people that think like that are law enforcement and military. He asked and answered his own questions in his own manifesto. Who's going to know that unless you're around people who are either federal law or military law? So yeah, this was a militia, and even going a little deeper, who made the phone call for him to get activated? Ultimately, who controls the militia? Commander-in-Chief, president.
right. Yeah.
Right there, the president. So again, just some food for thought for our people. Hopefully it'll wake them up in regards to what we're dealing with here. And lastly, Article 6, we read that the treaty is the supreme law of the land. Here it states this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So again, just multiple contradictions that we highlight each week. This one's basically saying that this treaty is the supreme law of the land, yet we never again get taught this in schooling. If the treaty is the supreme law of the land, then that should mean nothing can supersede it. But we just read in the 1866 Indian Treaty how the missionaries superseded the treaty. So again, just multiple contradictions, on the foundation in which this government was established, which is the Constitution. So if the people who claim to uphold this Constitution aren't living by this Constitution, then that just means one thing: one, there is no law. And why are we still trying to play in a game that is no longer being refereed, or scores no longer being actually counted? So again, it just makes us, puts me in the mindset, okay, we need to focus on something that's going to be constructive for us, because this system, one, was never built for us, and two, the people who claim to uphold it aren't even abiding by this Constitution. Let's see here. So this week we will be jumping into the Homestead Act of 1862. So apologies, we did kind of move out of order because our last reading was the 1866 Indian Treaty, but this will just further highlight how those European peasants after the Civil Rebellion were able to move into present-day Oklahoma, Indian Territory, of how we had those different demographics of people, individuals within that one area. This will definitely explain how that occurred. Anybody want to start us off with the reading of the summary? And if so, let me know if I need to enhance or zoom in the screen.
Yeah, I got it for you. And can someone look up absolute title? Because we're going to get into that again in this act, just as a refresher. Homestead Act of 1862. Summary. The Homestead Act of 1862 was passed by the U.S. Congress. It provided for the transfer of 160 acres of unoccupied public land to each homesteader on payment of a nominal fee after 5 years of residence. Land could also be acquired after 6 months of residence at $1.25 an acre. So we can see right here the beginning of the largest wealth transfer on planet Earth to this day. Everything west of the Mississippi, you can see that each individual head of household peasant under this act was going to get 160 acres. And then after 5 years, they could purchase additional acres for $1.25 per acre. Anybody want to share anything on that?
You're right. Like you said, the beginning of the transfer of wealth with land ownership from back in the 1860s is about to start right here. They've done, they were organized all the way up to this point, and they're about to start getting things more tangible now.
Pico, you got anything you want to build on that?
Just again, just highlights or just mirrors to me exactly what we're dealing with today. Instead of 160 acres, it's 40 million or 40 billion dollars given to Ukraine, or given to I believe it was Iran refugees, which again, people forget how soon short-term memory our people have. Just being able to house these large groups of people, and off of whose labor, off of whose land in this situation, which is our land, just given away to, again, these settlers, these new settlers arriving off these boats from Europe. So it just rhymes again today with, everything just rhymes with what we're seeing today.
I'll keep going. The government had previously sold land to settlers in the West for revenue purposes. As the West became politically stronger, however, pressure was increased upon Congress to guarantee free land to settlers. Several bills providing for free distribution of land were defeated in Congress. In 1860, a bill was passed in Congress, but was vetoed by President Buchanan. With the ascendancy of the Republican Party, which had committed itself to homestead legislation, and with the secession of the South, which had opposed free distribution of land, the Homestead Act, sponsored by Galusha A. Grow, became law. In 1976, it expired in all the states but Alaska, where it ended in 1986. So there's a couple of things we got to pull apart right here. Number one, they got free land. Basically, they got free estates. 160 acres is an estate. So these people literally came off the boat and got free 160 acres. The other thing that we need to understand is that contract that we're reading now, it expired in 1976. Because we don't know law and history, they need to get the fuck off the land. Contract's up. And it just said in Alaska, 1986. So shout out to everybody that's staying consistent and understanding that law and history goes together, not religion and history. Law and history go together. You want to know what happened on the land, read the government's documents and try to do it in chronological order. But y'all want to build on those two things? These people got free land coming from Europe, and that shit's expired 46 years ago.
Well, did it expire, meaning they weren't giving any more free land, or the fact that they have, because these people still have the land, which is why they own so much land in this, in the United States, right?
I would choose my words carefully.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have anything.
Right, I got you.
They
Yeah.
stole it with fake.
Right,
You see what I'm saying? So
I got you. Yeah,
this whole government is criminal.
right.
So the people that inhabited whatever they inhabited west of the Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
that expired 1976.
Got you.
We just
Right.
don't know.
Right.
We don't know. Because they got us.
That it could be
wild.
as simple of us coming together and literally taking it back per the Homestead Act.
Mhm.
Because we know the first three treaties that we read are invalid because they were separate and apart from the United States government.
Right, right.
So, I mean, we're literally showing, we're debunking, we're showing the criminal enterprise. Chief Biko, you want to build on anything?
No, that expiration date really stood out to me in 1976. Again, it just raises the question, like Chief Quietwater stated, hey, your contract over with.
Right.
Your contract over with. It's either you can move or you can be removed.
Right.
Which one do which one do you want? So no, that was definitely interesting to me because it doesn't state that, the distribution of land ended in that time. It just says, 1976, it expired.
Right.
So like those residents being able to inhabit that area or be, given protection to inhabit that area, because like you stated, it's not their land anyway. So they're just occupying it by the gun. But yeah, just highlighting that it expired in 1976 again just shows, we're not in alignment with, the laws of this government to be able to say, okay, you're contradicting yourself in this.
Right.
Again, like how we just did with the Constitution. So no, that's very interesting, very interesting.
Let me go just one step further with y'all. Just a reminder, there was no banking system in 1862. That's how they were given free land. See, what we know today is mortgages, bank loans, that didn't exist because you were dealing with your money, constitutional money. They could not finance the land because we're the holders of the land. So the only thing they could do was give it away. But they weren't really giving it away. It's military occupation. We've got this area roped off, send them out there with wagons and horses, put them out there on those surveyed lands because they're going to be surrounded and protected. But we have to remember, there was no banking system, there was no IRS, and there was no Federal Reserve in 1862. All of that shit is not in their Constitution. And we'll get into that as we go into the 1910, none of that shit's in the Constitution. So it shows how dumbed down we are. IRS, the Federal Reserve, none of that shit's a part of their government.
Correct. Those are their own individual corporations. We finished off on the summary. We finished off the summary, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going if y'all want, or somebody, it don't matter.
You can go and I'll catch the next one.
All right. So an act to secure homestead to actual settlers on public domain, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in assembly, that any person who is the head of a family or who has arrived at the age of 21 years and is a citizen of the United States, or who shall have filed his declaration intention to become such, as required by the naturalization laws of the United States, and who has never borne arms against the United States government or given aid and comfort to its enemies, shall, from and after the 1st January 1863 be entitled to enter 1/4 section or a less quantity of unappropriated public lands. So they just gave 4 clauses there. You got to be head of family, 21 years old, a citizen of the United States, or somebody who's went through the naturalization laws of the United States. And then the 5th clause, you could have not participated in the Civil Rebellion, and you can get you a 1/4 section, which is what we read in the 1866 Indian Treaty, Chief Biko, where they were given the Choctaw, Chickasaw 1/4 sections. They're also offering that to United States citizens as well. Y'all can build on whatever jumped out to y'all on that part.
Just that Naturalization Act or that naturalization law. I know that's something we had highlighted previously in probably last year, that 1790 Naturalization Act, where pretty much it was just saying, hey, anybody who, you know, if you were made a citizen underneath this government on, you know, this soil, then if your children are abroad, pretty much in Europe, then they would be classified as citizens as well. So you can see how they were already kind of playing the long game in regards to this act. Again, and another thing that that citizen of the United States, again, people, we didn't become citizens of the United States until what, 1965, when we were fighting for civil rights. So we can't say, oh, well, you know, this is saying that, you know, Black people or, you know, Negroes or African Americans, they could get on this as well. Nah, it strictly says have to be a U.S. citizen or have filed for becoming or filed to become a U.S. citizen. So that's what really stuck out to me.
I agree, me too. They're basically just giving it to them. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
And we can see where the resentment's gonna come in between the dirty South, the Europeans in the South, because they specifically said if you ever took up arms against the United States government, you don't get free land. So we can see how they're gonna feel a certain type of way. The European that's been in the South for a while, and they watching new people come off the boat get 160 acres because remember, they got registered through the what was the document we read? The Freedmen's Bureau Act. They got registered through the War Department.
Oh, right.
So yeah, if your name come up on that list, yeah, you can't get the 160.
Yeah, USOL. So again, just kind of highlights again that that conflict amongst the European. It's like you stating, oh, we've been on this land for 30+ years now. This is what the European is probably thinking, those who were, you know, cast out of Europe or emptied out of their debtor prisons into, you know, states like Georgia and pretty much the Confederacy. They're like, okay, we've been fighting against these Americans for this amount of years, and y'all aren't going to give us, who actually helped carve out or help put the gun to their heads and move them out of these certain places, but you're going to allow these other European peasants and lower class, you're going to get them 160 acres? Oh no, that's not, I'm not dealing with that. So now you can see that frontier mindset. Okay, let's pick up and go. Since they're giving this away,
Right.
it's free. So hey, we're going to take from them as well. So you kind of see how that's going to cause conflict amongst the Europeans as well.
I'll keep pushing for y'all. Upon which said person may have filed a preemption claim, or which may, at the time the application is made, be subject to preemption at $1.25 or less per acre, or 80 acres or less of such unappropriated lands at $2.50 per acre. Yeah, I mean, so basically all they had to do was just go through a little procedure with filing documents. You can get land for $1.25 an acre at 160 acres, or for 80 acres, you can get an acre for $2.50. I mean, they're giving it to them pennies on the dollar. I mean, God.
It's crazy. Like you said, that preemption,
Can we
So
look
that's-
that word up? Can we look, so can somebody pull up preemption just so we'll,
Yeah.
I'll look at it. Oh, what is it?
It's basically being able to, purchase before another person is. So they pretty much give them the option.
wait
Like,
a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. So they can get it before the American can, because they're not American.
Right.
So you
Right.
literally can take 160 acres of another tribe's land.
Mhm.
Wow.
Correct. Correct. 'Cause this is before the 1866 Indian Treaty, and this is, we know they're going to be in there. So then it kind of highlights again how we stated those two Europeans that were highlighted, saying they can be compensated 90,000 because they're like, hey, we were here before the Silver Rebellion. We need at least 90,000, and they're getting it $1.25 per acre. So you can see the game. We getting fucked over, y'all. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So I'm kind of glad that we are reading this out of order, because it just highlights what we read within that Indian treaty. So that's definitely something. But preemption, yeah, just means before another person. So they're getting that initial public offering in
Yeah.
today's terms, as far as like stocks and stuff. So
Mhm.
Okay. Where we at? Okay. To be located in a body in conformity to the legal subdivision of the public lands. So they've already got an area roped off where you can basically have your acres. And after the same shall have been surveyed, provided that any person owning and residing on land may, under the provisions of this act, enter other land lying contiguous to his or her said land. So not only can you get your 160,
Wow.
you can lay claim to land that's
Next to yours.
so it's safe to say it was a lot of killing going on during this Homestead Act. I'm sure now this makes sense why they would say circle the wagons. I can see why Americans would circle those settler wagons, because after a while they picked up and they were like, oh, they sending them wagons out here. Oh, they got
Right.
us up. They trying to get thousands of acres. Yeah.
Mm.
Anybody want to build on that, or y'all want me to finish this up real quick?
You can finish it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Which shall not, with the land so already owned and let me back up, that any person owning and residing on land may, under the provisions of this act, enter other land lying contiguous to his or her said land, which shall not, with the land so already owned and occupied, and seed in the aggregate of 160 acres. So if you got 80 acres for $2.50, you can lay claim to the land around you up to the total of 160 acres.
what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, that's crazy.
It was just open season for them.
Open season, and that's what it was. That's exactly what it was. That Chief Quietwater, when you think of like manifest destiny. I know we always bring that up. Me and Chief Blackcoat. That was the mindset.
Right.
Like, we
Right.
got backed by not only our government, but by God himself.
Mhm.
So we just finna go ahead and get everything, and it's free.
Exactly.
It's free.
Exactly.
So why wouldn't I go up to the max? Like you said, you could purchase something for $250 and be like, well, shit, everything continues to these. It's like you just building on blocks. Where does it end?
Right.
I mean, we know it ends at 160, but it's like, damn, okay. And now you can see why the Americans saying, nah, we finna fuck y'all up.
Right. Exactly.
And understand one thing, and go back to your grandparents, or for me and Chief Quietwater, it would be our parents. When they talked about going to the movies and it was only 15 cents. When we hear $1.25 or $2.50, we have to understand the dollar was attached to gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the prices were so low, because it was money.
Right. Right.
We're not dealing with money. So to us, even growing up, it sounds like, how could you get popcorn or soda and go to the movies for 15 cents? They didn't know that there was no money. All they knew was, yeah, that's what it was when we were growing up. Now we know, oh, it was the 1971 Gold Standard Act. They made y'all citizens and took the money out. That's why the shit exploded when we were kids.
Yep. It was a finite amount. Shit,
And
was
right
it?
now they can put whatever
Yeah,
dollar amount they want on it as far as what the dollar is actually worth, you know?
correct. Great point there, Chief Alligator. I can go ahead though. You was gonna pick up on section 2
Yes,
there?
I can do section 2.
Okay.
Okay, so section 2, and be it further enacted that the person applying for the benefit of this act shall, upon application to the register of the land office in which he or she is about to make such entry, make affidavit before the said register or receiver that he or she is the head of a family, or is 21 years or more of age, or shall have performed service in the Army or Navy of the United States, and that he has never borne arms against government of the United States or given aid and comfort to its enemies, and that such application is made for his or her exclusive use and benefit. So basically, it's just saying before you actually get this land, you have to basically swear before a register of the land office and meet those qualifications as stated before, that you are going to be the head of the household in order to qualify for it. And that said entry is made for the purpose of actual settlement and cultivation, and not either directly or indirectly for the use or benefit of any other person or person whomever. And upon filling the said affidavit with register or receiver, and on payment of $10, he or she shall thereupon be permitted to enter the quantity of land specified. So basically they could just, hey, just go in there, stand before the register of the land, the land office, and say, hey, I want X amount of acres. I mean, they just basically had their way.
What's missing in this process when you look at today, you being in the housing or real estate industry? What's the, out of everything you read, what's missing?
Not sure what.
There's no banking system.
Oh yeah.
You just go into the land register,
right,
and just file
and
the
just
damn
saying, hey, I
affidavit,
just
and they
want,
just get you
right.
the land. There's
How
no
easy is
loan.
that?
Giving my statement of facts or something, and hey,
right.
I'm good to go.
I mean,
Not
easy.
a lot of paperwork, but
right.
great to highlight that.
No bank.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see here. And upon filling the said affidavit with register or receiver, and on payment of $10, he or she shall thereupon be permitted to enter the quantity of land specified, provided, however, that no certificate shall be given or patent issued therefore until the expiration of 5 years from the date of such entry. And if at the expiration of such time, or at any time within 2 years thereafter, the person making such entry, or if he be dead, his widow, or in case of her death, his heirs or devicee, or in case of a widow making such entry, her heirs or devicee, in case of her death, shall prove by 2 credible witnesses that he, she, or they have resided upon or cultivated the same for the term of 5 years immediately succeeding the time of filing the affidavit aforesaid. So basically they giving you like a 5-year grace period, I guess, that if anything changes, I guess, drastically within that 5 years, well, don't necessarily say that something will change, but yeah, basically it's given 5 years, kind of like a grace period. Am I reading that right?
What I'm seeing is no certificate or patent. So I guess going back to what was it? I think it was the Civil Rights Act of 1866, or one of those. They were saying, I know that patent and certificate came up, but it looks like we're not going to give you a certificate of this land or patent for this land until those 5 years have passed. That way, then you have to prove exactly that you've been on this land, or that's when these stipulations start to come in. But it kind of highlights again that certificate is not it's a derivative of the absolute title, or
right.
we were talking about with it being in under military occupations. I believe there's another term that we use. I know absolute title was one, but it was another one, but showing like complete ownership. So we're not going to give you the absolute title, but we'll give you a certificate of title or a patent for this land, but the United States is still the majority owner, or we still own the land. So now we can take it back whenever. So I know it's no banks right now, but I know that can possibly
Right.
down the line where we're like, hey, you only had a certificate, you didn't have the absolute title, so you don't really rightfully own this land or this area.
Let me throw one thing in just to keep him. It's 1862. So we got the Seminole War going on in the southeast region of North America. And you also got the European peasants in the South rebelling against their own government in the North.
Mhm.
It looks like this is a completely different group of Europeans that they're going to give this acreage to. And they're being specific. Don't you aid and assist nobody against the government. So it's almost like they've washed their hands with the European in the South that's rebelling, and they're bringing a new class of European in, fronting them 160 acres, and they've set it up the long way with the inheritance clause after 2 years. No matter who dies, all you need is 2 witnesses to show up, and you can keep it. But they keep focusing on you cannot take up arms against the United States.
Right.
Remember, this is in the heart of their civil rebellion.
Mhm.
Keep that in the background in your mind.
Right. Okay. Shall prove by 2 credible witnesses that he, she, or they have resided upon or cultivated the same for the term of 5 years immediately succeeding the time of filing the affidavit aforesaid, and shall make affidavit that no part of said land has been alienated and that he has borne true allegiance to the government of the United States. Then in such case, he, she, or they, if at that time a citizen of the United States, shall be entitled to a patent, and as in other cases, provided for by law, and provided further that in case of the death of both father and mother leaving an infant child or children under 21 years of age, the right and fee shall ensure to the benefit of said infant child or children, and the executor, administrator, or guardian may at any time within 2 years after the death of the surviving parent, in accordance with the laws of the state in which such children for the time being have their domicile, sell said land for the benefit of said infants, but for no other purpose, and the purchaser shall acquire the absolute title by the purchase and be entitled to a patent from the United States government on payment of the office fees and sum of money herein specified. So with this is basically showing how the descendants or the heirs of the people who got the land will be entitled to inherit the land after someone dies, a mother, father dies, and if in a case where there's an infant child. And they will, after that period of time also, they will get a patent to the land after that 5 years.
Yeah, I see a setup move right here. Where it says that like you just read, if both parents are killed, let's say somebody kills both parents.
Mhm.
It's saying that within 2 years after the death of the surviving parent, and in accordance with the laws of the state in which such children for the time being have their domicile, wherever they living at, sell said land for the benefit of the said infants, but for no other purpose, and the purchaser shall acquire the absolute title by the purchaser. So you can kill off the parents of a child, claim to be the executor or the guardian, sell that 160 acres, and the person that you sell it to gets the absolute title. What's the definition for absolute title?
I put it in the chat. It's guaranteed title to the ownership of a property or lease.
Guaranteed.
Mhm.
I think we've had this conversation before. Have you ever seen an absolute title?
No.
Okay, so we see they're playing a mean game here. Not only are they giving away hundreds of acres of land, they're also saying that if you kill off the bloodline, you can sell the children's inheritance and in return get absolute title and a patent.
Basically, again, stealing it from the heirs.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. And just point out, this is for the US citizen.
Mhm.
So when we think about movies like Clint Eastwood, Dirty Dan or whatever, and we see they're running up in houses, slaughtering the families, the mom, the father, and leaving that child, they were painting the picture of how it happened or what would happen during this time frame. So that just really stood out to me. And it
That's a
also
good
stood out
point.
to me that they're allowing this to happen. The US, the US government isn't stepping in like they would for the 1866 treaty, where it would state for the benefit of said child, the government would take over. They are leaving it up to the survivors to, sell that land again for the benefit of said infant, versus what it would say in 1866. This would be the government saying, we're going to do this for the benefit of the child. So again, just highlighting those two differences there. But very interesting points here.
You got the next one, Chief Biko?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pick up. So let me see. Okay, section 3. And be it further enacted that the register of the land office shall note all such applications on the tract books and plats of his office, and keep a register of all such entries, and make return thereof to the general land office, together with the proof upon which they have been founded. So here just looks like everything will be pretty much tracked, and bookkeeping will be done and taking place in the general land office. I'm guessing that's a government structure, like strictly from the US government, because I don't think they have any states established quite yet in regards to west of the Mississippi, outside of the Indian Territory.
Two different governments.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you're part of the democracy, then all your documents come through the bank. This is the republic.
Public. Great point.
So what we have is, you got one group of people got to go to the land office to get absolute title records and land patents. You got another group of people that are under the democracy. You got to go through the banking system or whatever realtor system. But the people that are in that banking world, you're never going to own.
Correct.
Because you're paying perpetual tax. The people that are registered through the land office, they get absolute title. Two separate governments, two separate classes of citizenship. Let's go back to Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. You got two different groups of people, those that have gold and silver, and those that work for nothing and get fiat. Two different groups of people.
Great point.
See it right here with land ownership. Anything you want to build on that, Chief Quietwater or Chief Biko?
No, I mean, it's pretty clear.
You broke it down right there. Great build on that, and highlighting the differences between the two governmental structures. Section 4, and be it further enacted that no lands acquired under the provisions of this act shall in any event become liable to the satisfaction of any debts contracted prior to issuing of the patent therefore.
That just proved my point.
It just highlights exactly what you just stated.
Wow.
Everything that you were indebted to prior, these land patents, they can't even be.
You can't lien it. You can't do nothing.
I'm about to say, you can't exercise it to pay off said debt because they're different. They're in a whole different matrix. You feel me? Like they're in a whole different matrix. So that's crazy. Wow. Okay.
How many more sections before we? Okay, we won't get it tonight.
Nah, we ain't gonna finish tonight.
That's cool.
Yeah. Shoot, I'll probably finish off section 5 and we'll start on section 6 for next week.
Okay.
And be it further enacted that if at any time after the filing of the affidavit as required in the second section of this act, and before the expiration of the 5 years after said, it shall be proven after due notice to the settler to the satisfaction of the register of the land office that the person having filed such affidavit shall have actually changed his or her residence or abandoned the said land for more than 6 months at a time, then and in that event, the land so entered shall revert to the government. So after Section 2, as it established, all of these provisions, if father and mother were to die, kids take over the land, but it's saying if that land shall be or shall have been abandoned for more than 6 months at any time period in the year or at any time, then that land would be reverted back to the government's land. So they would then take ownership of that said area. So it just shows here, yeah, you can't leave that, you can't have that land unoccupied for 6 months or it's coming back to United States government. Very interesting.
I think we just reverse engineered how to beat this system.
Hmm.
If your family comes from Ohio, well, Ohio's on no any estate west of the Mississippi where this Homestead Act was implemented, Americans, people who look like us, you need to find those land offices in that area, and you need to find out if your family was in that area, get them people off the land. Because the shit's already expired and they didn't pay nothing for it. They were given it.
Correct.
But you can't give somebody land where people are already living. So that's one way to reverse engineer this. Find those land offices and find out what peasants did they put on that land, because they were not Americans. They were United States citizens, and they're clear that you had to have allegiance to this government for them to front you that land. What's your thoughts on that?
I was going to say any of our, specifically our Kansas brethren, that specific tribe, we saw how they removed them from their lands and made them Choctaw and Chickasaw. So if you have any bloodline linking back to the Kansas tribe distinctly, a lot of your land has been given off. And it also highlights, like you said, it was given for free. So I'm pretty sure a lot of those Europeans aren't paying any taxes on this land because they have that absolute title. So they're continuing to build this make-believe fiat wealth because they have no debt. They're like, we don't even deal with that, but we'll play you all's game to get certain trinkets, get a new car here and there. But as far as this land, oh nah, we don't owe anything on it. It was given to us for free, but it was given us for free because they removed a lot of that Kansas tribes, and that highlights another thing, like you stated, they like to throw it in our face, Kansas City Royals. That was royal land, royal lineage in which they came from. So it's like, man, definitely want to do your lineage, do your background, see if anything can, trace back to those lands west of the Mississippi, because yeah, a lot of that stuff is ours. And like you said, that expiration, that expired about, what's that, 46 years ago?
46 years ago.
Y'all, either y'all pay, probably don't need to get that anyway, need 46 years of interest, but also y'all need to pack the hell up and get on, get stepping. But definitely good information.
Chief Quietwater.
I definitely agree with both of you guys. I do think that again, they just strategically set these things up. And again, it's the lack of our knowledge and education to know about this type of stuff, and be aware that we have claim in this land. It's ours, and it's probably not that hard of a process, just like Chief Biko just said, to go back and be like, pack your shit up and just go. If enough of us was on the same page and had that same mindset and knew this information, it would make sense. Like it makes sense to us, it would make sense to other people, because there's nothing confusing about this information. It's clear, it's plain English, and I just think that It's just the lack of our knowledge in regards to this information.
And for the record, this is according to Dr. William Katz, who this was a European scholar, and he's the most positive person about our history. Why is it that all our scholars always talk about the negative when this whole channel is dedicated to all the positive that we've done? But this is the largest real estate heist in world history. You're talking about land from the Mississippi all the way to California was for $1.25, 160 acres per head of household. We don't know that, but they know that this is the largest real estate heist in world history, the land that they robbed during the Homestead Act. Does that make it hit a little bit different for y'all knowing that reality?
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just see how it happened. How it happened. You know, it's one thing to just be like, you know, in the belief of, you know, just like highlighting, going back to, you know, my schooling or my brainwashing through K through 12, you know, they always said that manifest destination. It's like, well, how can they just pick up and pick whatever parts of land they want? Like, weren't people there already?
Right.
Like, you know, that just gets brushed over. Like, no, it was just empty land with honey rivers and pots of gold laying around. So, you know, that just highlights that indoctrination and that brainwashing that took place throughout, what's that? Through 12 years of my life and a lot of people who look like who look like us life, you know, that thought process. Yeah, it was just, you know, free land. The Indians or Native Americans were only on the East Coast, you know, on Plymouth Rock, and that was it. And they all just died off from sickness, and that was it. But no, it's definitely a much more glorious story. Again, we whoop they ass in a lot of these stories, so they don't, you know, get taught about. But yeah, it just highlights how the European moved from one coast of, you know, this land to the other coast. It just highlights how they did it in all aspects, through the pen as well as through the gun.
Right.
Yeah, that's what kind of stands out to me.
Good class this week.
Sure, for sure. Let's see.